The first time Karen said it, she didn't shout or throw a fit the way people expect from someone like her. She just leaned against the hood of her SUV, crossed her arms, smiled that thin, poisonous smile, and said, "I don't think this kind of relationship really belongs in a family neighborhood like ours." And for a second, my brain actually froze because she said it so calmly, so casually, like she was commenting on a cracked sidewalk instead of my life, my love, my right to exist in my own home. And I remember standing there with my boyfriend's hand still in mine, feeling that slow burn rise in my chest, while he squeezed my fingers like he was silently asking me not to react yet. At first, I tried to believe it was a one-off, that maybe she was just another bitter HOA volunteer with too much time and not enough joy. But then the emails started, perfectly timed, always polite on the surface and rotten underneath. Warnings about excessive overnight guests, when my boyfriend stayed over even though our straight neighbors hosted relatives every weekend. Notices about public displays of affection, because we sat close together on our porch. Vague reminders about community standards that never seemed to apply to anyone else. And every message ended with Karen's name, her title, her authority stamped neatly at the bottom like a threat wrapped in stationery. I tried talking to her directly once, asked her what rule we were actually breaking. And she tilted her head and said, "I'm just enforcing what the community expects," which was when I realized this wasn't about rules at all. It was about power, about her deciding who was acceptable and who wasn't. And the worst part was how small she tried to make us feel. It's like if we just complied enough, hid enough, stayed quiet enough, the harassment would stop. The real damage came at the HOA meeting when Karen stood up in front of a room full of neighbors and said our relationship was making some residents uncomfortable. I'll never forget the silence that followed, that awful, suffocating pause where people looked down at their papers or stared at the wall. Because no one wanted to be the one to say out loud that she had crossed a line. And in that moment, something inside me snapped into focus. Not rage, not panic, but clarity. Because I finally understood that staying quiet wasn't protecting us, it was enabling her. So instead of exploding, I did something that surprised even myself. I went calm. Because calm is dangerous when you're done being afraid. And over the next few weeks, I documented everything. Every email, every fine, every meeting note, every time Karen singled us out while ignoring the same behavior from straight couples. I saved screenshots, recorded dates, compared violations. And the pattern was impossible to deny. And when I reached out to a housing rights organization, they didn't sound shocked. They sounded tired, like they'd heard this story too many times. And they connected me with a lawyer who listened quietly and then said the words Karen never expected to hear. Yes, is discriminatory enforcement. From that point on, everything shifted behind the scenes. Complaints were filed, letters were sent, the HOA board was notified, and Karen, still drunk on her authority, had no idea what was coming, still sending warnings, still making comments, still convinced she was untouchable. Until the night of the next HOA meeting when she walked in, confident as ever, clipboard in hand. Only to freeze when she saw the HOA's attorney sitting at the front table. Because before Karen could even open her mouth, the attorney announced that the board was under formal review for discriminatory practices, that enforcement authority was being temporarily suspended, and that all recent fines issued under Karen's supervision were under investigation. And watching her face change in real time was surreal, the color draining, the confidence cracking, excuses spilling out as she insisted she was just doing her job. But this time no one was nodding along, no one was protecting her. Because the evidence was too clear, the paper trail too damning, and by the end of that meeting, Karen was stripped of her enforcement role, her power reduced to nothing more than a title without teeth. The weeks that followed were quiet in the best way. The HOA updated its policies, issued a carefully worded apology, quietly refunded fines, and reassigned Karen to a position with zero authority. No enforcement, no complaints, no control, and the irony is that now she avoids us completely, crosses the street when she sees us, pretends we don't exist, because the neighborhood didn't reject us. It rejected her behavior. And every time my boyfriend and I sit on our porch now, holding hands without fear, laughing freely, living openly, I think back to the moment she said we didn't belong here, and I smile, because in the end, the only person who lost their place in this community was her.